The council chamber was full of fear. 7 species sat around the massive oval table, and every single one of them looked worried. Ambassador Curie stood at the center of the room, her insect-like body casting strange shadows on the walls. She held an old data tablet in her clawed hands. 12 worlds, she said, her voice clicking and humming through the translator. 12 worlds lost in 3 months. Our fleets are being destroyed. Our people are dying. The other ambassadors shifted in their seats. No one wanted to speak first. They all knew the truth. The enemy they called the Devourers was winning. Nothing they tried had worked. Their ships fell like leaves in a storm. Their weapons barely scratched the enemy's armor. We need help, Curie continued. Help from someone who knows how to fight. There is no one else, said the Tharvan ambassador, a creature that looked like a floating jellyfish. Every species in the galaxy is represented here. We are all that exists. That is not true, Curie said quietly. The room went silent. Every eye and sensor turned toward her. I have been studying old records, she explained. Very old records. From 300 years ago. Before most of you were born. Before your grandparents were born. She activated the tablet and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed a star chart with a large section marked in red. There was another species. They called themselves humans. Some of the ambassadors laughed. Others looked confused. Humans are a myth, said the Korthan representative, a large reptilian being. Stories we tell children. Brave warriors who could never be defeated. They do not exist. I thought so too, Curie admitted. But look at this. The hologram changed, showing ancient text and images. These are not stories. These are official records, trade agreements, battle reports, medical files. Humans were real. They lived in this galaxy. They had hundreds of worlds. They were members of this very council. Then where are they? Asked the Tharvan ambassador. If they were so real, so powerful, where did they go? Curie pointed at the red section of the star chart. They went there. Into quarantine. The records say they discovered a terrible disease, a bioweapon that could spread to every species in the galaxy. Instead of risking us all, they sealed themselves away. They put warnings around their space. No ship has entered that zone in 300 years. No ship that tried has ever come back. Then they are dead, the Korthan said. Dead for 3 centuries. Maybe, Curie replied. Or maybe they are waiting. This is foolish, another ambassador said. We are losing a war and you want us to chase ghost stories? Curie's body stiffened. I want us to try everything. The Devourers are destroying us. In 6 months, maybe less, they will reach our core worlds, our capitals, our homes. If there is even a small chance that humans still exist, that they can help us, we must take it. The debate went on for hours. Most of the council thought Curie was wasting their time. But finally, because they were desperate and had no other options, they agreed. One ship would go into the quarantine zone. It would search for any sign of humans. If it found nothing, they would never speak of this again. 3 days later, a small Velthian scout ship approached the red zone. Captain Wunschik commanded the vessel. He did not believe in humans. He thought this mission was stupid. But orders were orders. Entering quarantine zone, his pilot reported. Keep all sensors active, Wunschik said. If something is here, I want to know about it before it kills us. The ship crossed the invisible line that marked human space. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The crew began to relax. There was nothing here, just empty space and old warnings. Then every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. Contact! The sensor officer shouted. Multiple contacts. They just appeared out of nowhere. On the main screen, 3 ships materialized. They were sleek and dark, covered in angles that seemed to absorb light. Their design was like nothing anyone in the galaxy used. They moved with incredible speed, surrounding the scout ship in seconds. Power down weapons, a voice said in perfect Velthian. The translation was flawless. Identify yourselves. Wunschik stared at the screen. His mandibles clicked nervously. This is Velthian scout ship Morning Light. We come in peace. We are looking for humans. There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again, but this time in a different language, one that the translator did not recognize at first. Then slowly words appeared on the screen. You found them. One of the dark ships moved closer. Its hull was marked with symbols, a circle, some continents, a moon, and words in that strange language, Terran Defense Coalition. This is Commander Jiwan of the TDC Watchkeeper, the voice said, switching back to Velthian. You have entered protected space. Explain why you broke 3 centuries of quarantine. One-Shik's hands shook as he activated the communication channel. Commander G1, we did not know humans still existed. The galaxy, we thought you were myths, stories. We came because we need help. We are being destroyed by an enemy we cannot defeat. Another pause. One-Shik could see movement on the human ship's hull. Weapons that he did not understand. Technology that looked impossibly advanced. Describe this enemy, G1 said. We call them devourers. They consume everything, planets, ships, people. They appeared 3 months ago and have been unstoppable. We have lost 12 worlds. Our fleets are failing. Inside the human ship, G1 sat in her command chair and listened to the Velthian captain's words. Around her, her crew worked at stations filled with holographic displays. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes and short black hair. She had been in cryosleep for 240 years. She had woken up only 6 months ago, and in those 6 months she had watched the devourers from afar, studying them, learning their patterns. Captain Minho, she said to her second-in-command, your assessment. Minho stood near the tactical display. He was younger than G1, with a quick smile that hit a sharp mind. They're telling the truth, Commander. We've been tracking the devourer movements. The Galactic Council is getting crushed. Should we help them? Asked Haijin, the communications officer. She was the youngest on the bridge, barely 26 years old. They forgot we existed. They didn't forget, Ji-won said quietly. We made them forget. We erased ourselves to save them. Now they need saving again. She opened a channel to the Velthian ship. Captain One-Shik, I am sending you coordinates. Return to your council. Tell them that humanity remembers its duty. Tell them we are coming. Tell them the myths were real. One-Shik could barely speak. You will help us? We will do more than help, Ji-won replied. We will teach you how to win. Humanity has been preparing for this war for 300 years. The Devourers made a mistake. They hurt the galaxy we swore to protect. Now they will learn what humans do to things that threaten the innocent. The 3 human ships disappeared as quickly as they had arrived, vanishing into whatever strange technology allowed them to move unseen. One-Shik set course back to Valaris Prime. His crew was silent, shocked. They had entered the red zone expecting to find nothing. Instead, they had found warriors. Real warriors. Not myths, not ghosts. They had found humans, and the humans were coming to fight. The station was enormous. It hung in space like a small moon, covered in armor plating and defensive weapons. This was Haven's Gate, the largest of humanity's hidden refuges. Inside its metal walls, millions of people slept in cryopods, waiting for the day they could wake up and return to the galaxy. That day had finally come. Admiral Tae-hyun stood in the observation deck, looking out at the sea of sleeping pods below. He was an old man now, one of the few who had stayed awake to watch over humanity's long sleep. His hair was white. His face was lined with wrinkles, but his eyes were still sharp and clear. Begin awakening sequence, he said into his communicator. Sector 7 first, medical teams on standby. Below him, lights began to blink on across thousands of pods. Machines hummed to life. Chemicals that had kept people frozen for centuries started to drain away. Inside each pod, a human began the slow process of waking up. Dr. Nari appeared beside the Admiral. She was a short woman with tired eyes and hands that never stopped moving. She had spent 50 years of her life finding the cure that would let humanity come home. Are you ready for this? She asked Tae-hyun. No, he admitted. But it doesn't matter if I'm ready. The galaxy needs us. They forgot about us, Nari said. There was no anger in her voice, just sadness. We made them forget, Tae-hyun replied. It was the only way. The bioweapon would have killed every living thing in known space. We had no choice. Nari nodded slowly. She had read the old reports. 300 years ago, humans had made first contact with an alien species. It should have been a moment of celebration. Instead, it had been a nightmare. The aliens carried a disease, something their bodies were immune to but which infected humans instantly. Worse, humans could pass it to other species. Within weeks, the infection would have spread across every trade route, every colony, every world. The human leaders had made a terrible choice. They had sealed their borders. They had quarantined every human world. They had sent out warnings in every language. Stay away. We are infected. We are dangerous. And then they had gone to sleep, putting their faith in future scientists to find a cure. The Velthian ship is approaching, a technician reported. They're requesting permission to dock. Grant it, Taehyun said, and send Jiwon to meet them. It's time the galaxy learned the truth. In the docking bay, Commander Jiwon waited with Captain Minho and a small honor guard. They wore formal uniforms, dark blue with silver trim. On their shoulders was the symbol of humanity, Earth rising above the moon. The airlock opened, and Ambassador Curie entered, followed by 2 guards and a recording team. The Velthian ambassador stopped when she saw the humans, her compound eyes reflecting the station's lights. "It is true," she whispered. "You are real." "We are real," Jiwon confirmed. "Welcome to Haven's Gate, Ambassador. We have much to discuss." They gathered in a conference room. Through the windows, Curie could see the massive cryo-storage sections of the station. Hundreds of thousands of pods, maybe millions. "How many?" she asked. "How many humans are here?" "On this station?" 4 million, Jiwon replied. "Across all our stations?" "About 2 billion. Curie's body trembled. 2 billion warriors. "Not warriors," Jiwon corrected. 2 billion people. Teachers, farmers, engineers, artists, children, but yes, many of us have trained to fight. We knew this day might come. "Tell me what happened," Curie said. "Tell me the truth. Why did you disappear?" Dr. Nari stepped forward. She activated a holographic display that showed microscopic images of the bioweapon. 300 years ago, we encountered a species called the Devourers. They sent a diplomatic ship. We didn't know they were testing us. They carried a disease designed to infect other species. It worked perfectly on humans. Within days, thousands were sick. Within weeks, we realized we could spread it to others. "The Devourers did this intentionally?" Curie asked. "Yes," Nari said. "They create bioweapons. They test them on species they encounter. If the species survives, the Devourers leave them alone. If the species dies, the Devourers consume their worlds. We survived the infection, but we became carriers. We could spread it to every species in the galaxy." Admiral Taehyun continued the story. "Our leaders made a choice. We could fight the Devourers and risk infecting everyone, or we could quarantine ourselves. We chose quarantine. We sealed our borders. We went into cryosleep while our scientists worked on a cure. We left warnings for others to stay away." "And you found a cure?" Curie asked. 50 years ago, Nari confirmed. "It took 250 years, but we succeeded. We cured ourselves. We could have returned then, but we waited. We watched the galaxy. We saw that you were at peace. We didn't want to disrupt that peace, so we stayed hidden, monitoring from afar." "Until the Devourers returned," Jiwon added. Curie made a clicking sound of distress. "You have been watching them?" "For 6 months, Minho said. "We detected their ships entering council space. We recognized their technology immediately. We've been tracking their movements, studying their tactics. We know their patterns." "Then you know how to defeat them?" "We have ideas," Jiwon said carefully. "But it won't be easy. The Devourers have evolved. They're stronger than they were 3 centuries ago. However, so are we. We've had 300 years to prepare, to build weapons, to train, to think about this war." In the cryo bay, the first pods were opening. Seojin stepped out of his pod on shaking legs. He was 24 years old, though he had been alive for over 300 years. He had volunteered for cryosleep as a soldier, knowing he might wake up to a war. A medical technician helped him walk to a recovery chair. "Easy," she said. "Your muscles need time to adjust." "What's happening?" Seojin asked. His voice was rough from centuries of not speaking. "Why are we waking?" "The war has started," the technician replied. "The enemy is back. We're going to fight." Seojin smiled despite his weakness. "Good. That's what I signed up for." All across Haven's Gate, the same scene repeated. Thousands of people waking up. Some were confused, some were scared, but when they learned why they had been awakened, most of them had the same reaction as Seojun. They were ready. In the conference room, Jiwon was showing Curie tactical displays. The Devourers use swarm tactics. They overwhelm with numbers, but they have weaknesses. Their ships communicate through a biological network, disrupt the network, and they become disorganized. We've tried everything, Curie said. Jamming signals, electromagnetic pulses, nothing works. Because you're using technology, Dr. Nari explained. The Devourer network is biological. You need a biological solution. She pulled up another display showing chemical formulas. We've developed a compound that disrupts their neural connections. It's based on the same pathogen they used on us, modified and weaponized. You turned their weapon against them, Curie said with something like admiration. We learn from our enemies, Admiral Taehyun said. It's what we do. Curie looked at the humans gathered around her. These people had sacrificed 300 years to protect a galaxy that forgot they existed. They had isolated themselves, frozen themselves, given up their lives for strangers they would never meet. And now, they were offering to fight again. Why? She asked. Why help us? We forgot you. We thought you were myths. We did nothing for you. Jiwon smiled. It was a sad smile, but genuine. Because it's the right thing to do. Because 300 years ago, we made a promise to protect others. That promise doesn't expire. And because if we don't stop the Devourers now, there won't be a galaxy left for us to return to. When can you be ready? Curie asked. The first battle group will be ready in 48 hours, Minho said. 10 ships, 3,000 personnel. It's not much, but it will make a difference. We're also beginning mass awakening, Taehyun added. Within 2 weeks, we'll have a full fleet operational. Within a month, a full army. But we need to start somewhere. Curie stood. I must return to the council immediately. They will not believe this. They will think I have gone mad. Show them this, Jiwon said, handing the ambassador a data chip. Records, video, proof. Tell them humanity is coming. Tell them we remember our oath. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. As Curie's ship departed, carrying the impossible news back to the Galactic Council, Haven's Gate continued to wake. Pod after pod opened. Person after person stepped out into a future they had only dreamed about. In the station's command center, Admiral Taehyun watched the awakening progress. Beside him, Dr. Nari reviewed medical reports. Everything was proceeding smoothly. The cure had worked. Humanity was healthy, whole, and ready to rejoin the galaxy. Do you think we can win? Nari asked. Taehyun was quiet for a moment. Then, he said, I think we have something the Devourers don't understand. They see other species as food, as resources. They don't understand sacrifice. They don't understand fighting for others. That's going to be their weakness. That's how we beat them. Down in the recovery areas, Seojun was going through basic physical tests. His muscles remembered the training he had done before cryosleep. His mind remembered why he had volunteered. When an officer asked if he was ready to fight, he didn't hesitate. I've been ready for 300 years, he said. All across human space, the same awakening was happening. Stations coming online, ships powering up, weapons being loaded. An army that had been sleeping for 3 centuries was waking up, and it was angry. The planet Tarnus 4 was burning. From orbit, Colonel Daehyun could see the fires spreading across the northern continent. Devourer dropships were landing everywhere, releasing their ground forces to consume everything in their path. How long do the shields have? He asked. 20 minutes, his tactical officer replied. Maybe less. Daehyun stood in the command center of the assault carrier Horizon. Around him, 3,000 human Marines prepared for battle. They wore exosuits that enhanced their strength and speed. They carried weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. And they were scared, but they were ready. All ships, this is Commander G1, a voice said over the fleet channel. We're coming out of slip space in 30 seconds. Remember your training. Trust your squad. We're going to save that planet. The human fleet materialized above Tarnus 4 in a flash of blue light, 10 warships sleek and deadly appearing from nowhere. The Galactic Council ships that had been retreating stopped in confusion. They had been running from a battle they couldn't win. Now something had changed. "This is Commander G1 to all Council vessels," the broadcast went out. "Hold your position. We're taking point. Follow our lead and we'll get through this together." On the Velthian command ship, Captain Wanchik stared at his displays in disbelief. The human ships were moving forward, straight toward the Devourer fleet. It was suicide. The Devourers had 40 ships to humanity's 10. "Are they insane?" his weapons officer asked. "No," Wanchik said slowly, remembering the dark ships that had intercepted him in the quarantine zone. "They know something we don't." Jiwan sat in her command chair watching the tactical display. Beside her, Captain Minho was coordinating the fighter wings. Behind them, Heejin was managing communications, keeping all the human and alien ships linked together. "Weapons range in 20 seconds, the tactical officer reported. "All ships, spread formation Delta," Jiwan ordered. "Fighters launch on my mark. Let them see what 300 years of preparation looks like." The human ships spread out in a pattern that seemed random, but was perfectly calculated. When the Devourers fired their first weapons, the human vessels weren't where the enemy expected them to be. Plasma bolts passed through empty space while the human ships glided between them like dancers. "Fighters away," Minho announced. From the bellies of the human carriers, small craft erupted like angry hornets. These weren't the bulky fighters the Council species used. These were swift, angular machines that moved with impossible precision. Wing Leader Jamin led the first squadron, his neural link connecting him directly to his fighter systems. "Fox Squadron, form on me," he transmitted. "We're going for their command ship." The human fighters accelerated past the Council vessels. The alien crews watched in amazement as the small craft wove through defensive fire that should have destroyed them. The fighters moved as one unit as if they shared a single mind. They did, in a way. Neuralink technology allowed the pilots to share tactical information instantly, to coordinate without speaking, to react faster than individual thought. "Target lock," Jamin said calmly. "Firing." The fighters released missiles that split apart mid-flight, each warhead tracking a different target. The Devourer command ship's point defense systems tried to respond, but there were too many missiles coming from too many angles. Explosions rippled across the enemy vessel's hull. "Direct hits," Jamin reported. "Their communications array is down." "The fleet is losing coordination," Jiwan smiled. "Perfect. All ships concentrate fire on their capital ships. Let's even these odds." The human warships unleashed weapons the galaxy had never seen. Kinetic accelerators fired solid projectiles at a percentage of light speed. Plasma torpedoes left trails of burning energy across space, and something new, something terrifying, beams of focused radiation that simply erased whatever they touched. Within 5 minutes, the Devourer fleet was in chaos. 3 of their capital ships were destroyed. 2 more were crippled. The rest were trying to reorganize, but without their command ship's coordination, they were just individuals. "This is G1 to all Council ships," the commander broadcast. "Now is your moment. Hit them while they're disorganized. Show them what you can do." The Council vessels, inspired by humanity's assault, surged forward. They might not have human technology, but they had numbers and courage. Together, the combined fleet pressed the attack. On the planet's surface, the battle was just as fierce. Devourer ground forces were spreading through the cities, consuming everything. The Velthian defenders were falling back, overwhelmed by the enemy's numbers. Then the sky lit up with dropships. Colonel Daehyun was the first one out of his transport. His exosuit absorbed the impact of landing from 300 meters up. Around him, his Marines hit the ground in a perfect defensive formation. They were in the middle of a Velthian city, surrounded by burning buildings and panicking civilians. "Form perimeter," Daehyun ordered. "Yoonji, get those defensive barriers up." Lieutenant Yoonji moved forward with her engineering team. They carried compact devices that unfolded into energy barriers, creating a safe zone in the middle of the chaos. Velthian civilians ran toward the barriers seeking protection. "Contacts incoming," a Marine reported. 200 meters north side. The Devourers came like a wave. They were biomechanical creatures, part machine and part living organism. They walked on multiple legs, their bodies covered in armor plating that grew from their own flesh. They had weapons integrated into their limbs, firing energy blasts as they charged. "Open fire," Daehyun commanded. The human Marines unleashed hell. Their weapons fired directed energy beams that cut through Devourer armor like paper. Explosions ripped through the enemy ranks as smart grenades found their targets. The Devourers had never faced weapons like these before, but there were so many of them. For every one that fell, 2 more appeared. "We can't hold this position forever," Yunji said as she fired her rifle at advancing enemies. "We need reinforcements." "Reinforcements are coming," Daehyun replied. "We just need to buy them time." A young Velthian soldier crouched behind the barrier, staring at the humans in amazement. He had been fighting the Devourers for weeks. His unit had been slowly pushed back, losing ground every day. He had thought they were going to lose everything. Now these humans, these mythical warriors from stories, were holding the line. They fought with a precision and ferocity he had never witnessed. They didn't retreat. They didn't panic. They just fought. One of the Devourers broke through the defensive line, its claws reaching for the Velthian civilians. Before anyone could react, a human Marine stepped in front of it. The Marine's name was Seojun, and he had been awake for less than 2 days. Seojun's exosuit enhanced his strength. When the Devourer struck, he caught its claw and held it. The creature pushed harder, trying to overwhelm him, but Seojun didn't move. "Not today," he said, and fired his weapon point blank into the creature's core. The Devourer exploded in a spray of organic matter and metal. The young Velthian soldier found his voice. "Why?" he shouted to the nearest human. "Why are you fighting for us? We're strangers to you." It was Hyejin who answered. She had come down with the second wave, setting up a communications hub to coordinate the ground and space battles. She paused in her work and looked at the young soldier. "Because someone needs to," she said simply. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because we protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's what humans do." Above the planet, the space battle was turning in their favor. The Devourer fleet was breaking apart. Without coordination, they couldn't use their swarm tactics effectively. The Council ships were pushing forward, gaining confidence with every victory. Jemin's fighter squadron had destroyed 3 more enemy vessels. His wingmate called out a warning about incoming fire, and he rolled his craft away from danger. The neural link made flying feel like an extension of his body. The fighter didn't just respond to his commands, it anticipated them. "All wings, the enemy is retreating," Minho announced from the command ship. "Don't let them escape. Drive them out of this system." The remaining Devourer ships tried to flee, but the human fighters pursued. They were faster, more agile, and they had 3 centuries of tactical development behind them. One by one, the enemy vessels were destroyed or driven away. On the ground, the Devourer forces were also retreating. Without support from orbit, they couldn't maintain their assault. Colonel Daehyun's Marines pressed forward, clearing the city block by block. When the last Devourer was destroyed, silence fell over the battlefield. Velthian soldiers and civilians emerged from cover, looking around in disbelief. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. Seojin removed his helmet and sat down on a pile of rubble. His body ached. His muscles were still adjusting from cryo-sleep. But he was alive, and the people he had sworn to protect were alive. Ambassador Curie's ship landed in the city square. She stepped out and saw the human Marines standing guard, protecting Velthian civilians. She saw the defensive barriers that had saved thousands of lives. She saw the bodies of Devourers scattered across the ground. She approached Colonel Daehyun, who was coordinating the cleanup efforts. "You saved us," she said. "We did what was necessary," Daehyun replied. "But the war isn't over. This was just one planet. The Devourers will come again, and in greater numbers." Valaris Prime hung in space like a jewel, a massive station that served as the capital of the Galactic Council. It was home to 50 million beings from 7 different species. It was the center of government, trade, and culture for the entire galaxy, and it was about to be destroyed. "Devourer fleet emerging from slip space," the sensor officer reported. Her voice was steady, but her hand shook. "Count as 300 ships. Repeat, 300. Admiral Taehyun stood on the bridge of the command carrier Indomitable, humanity's largest warship. Around him, displays showed the approaching enemy fleet. It was the biggest Devourer force anyone had ever seen. They had been planning this attack for months, gathering their strength for one massive strike. "How many ships do we have?" he asked. 120 total, replied the tactical officer. 40 human vessels, 80 council ships. The numbers were bad. The enemy had more than twice their strength. But Taehyun had not lived 300 years just to give up now. Inform Commander Ji-won, he said. Execute Defense Plan Omega. It's time to show the Devourers what desperation looks like. On the Watchkeeper, Ji-won received her orders and immediately began issuing commands. All ships, Formation Theta. Use the station's defensive grid as an anchor. Layer our shields with theirs. Make them work for every meter of space. The human and council ships spread out around Valaris Prime, creating overlapping fields of fire. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. The station itself was armed with thousands of defensive weapons. Together with the fleet, they created a fortress in space. Incoming fire, Captain Minho announced. Brace for impact. The Devourer fleet opened up with everything they had. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles filled the space around Valaris Prime. The defensive shields lit up like stars as they absorbed the punishment. Return fire, Ji-won commanded. Give them hell. The human ships unleashed their weapons. The newer council vessels that had been equipped with human technology added their firepower. Space became a storm of light and violence, but the Devourers kept coming. For every ship that was destroyed, 2 more moved forward. They didn't care about losses. They only cared about consuming the station and everyone on it. Shields at 60%, the tactical officer reported. Multiple hits on the station's hull. They're targeting the civilian sectors. Ji-won's jaw tightened. Hyejin, coordinate with the Council Defense Forces. We need to protect those civilians. Hyejin worked at her console, linking human and alien communication systems together. It was complex work, made harder by the fact that 7 different species all used different protocols. But she had trained for this. She had spent years in cryosleep dreaming about this moment. All defensive batteries focus fire on grid sections 7 through 12, she transmitted. Protect the residential areas. On Valaris Prime, millions of people were evacuating to the station's core. The outer sections were taking heavy damage. Entire corridors were open to space. Emergency crews worked frantically to seal breaches and rescue trapped civilians. Colonel Daehyun led his Marines through the chaos. They had boarded the station hours ago, preparing for exactly this scenario. Now they were fighting Devourer boarding parties that had breached the hull. Contact Junction 17, one of his squad leaders reported. Multiple hostiles. On our way, Daehyun replied. His exosuit carried him through the corridors faster than any unenhanced being could run. He arrived at the junction to find Velthian security forces pinned down by enemy fire. Marines, suppress fire, he ordered. Let the locals fall back. The human weapons tore into the Devourer borders. The creatures were tough, designed to fight in space and on planets alike, but they couldn't stand up to concentrated fire from military-grade energy weapons. Lieutenant Yoonji appeared beside Daehyun, carrying a portable barrier generator. Sir, we need to seal this section. If they get past us, they'll reach the civilian shelters. Do it, Daehyun said. We'll hold this line. Yoonji's engineering team set up the barriers while the Marines provided covering fire. It was brutal, close-quarters fighting, the kind where you saw your enemy's face before you killed it. Seojin was there too, fighting alongside veterans who had trained before he was born. He had been awake for less than a week, but he fought like he had been doing this his whole life. Because in a way, he had been. He had trained before cryosleep. He had dreamed about this during his long sleep. This was what he was made for. A Devourer broke through the line, its claws reaching for a wounded Velthian. Seojin threw himself in front of the attack, taking the hit on his exosuit's armor. The impact knocked him down, but he kept firing, emptying his weapon into the creature until it fell. You okay? A fellow Marine asked, helping him up. Yeah, Seojin said, checking his armor. Just another day saving the galaxy. In the council chambers, Ambassador Curie coordinated the evacuation efforts. She had refused to leave the station, insisting that she stay to help organize the defense. Now she watched displays showing the battle in space and the fighting in the corridors. How long can we hold? She asked a human officer. Honestly, I don't know, the officer replied. The enemy keeps coming. Our shields are failing. We're losing ships. Then we fight to the last, Curie said firmly. We do not surrender. We do not give up. The officer smiled. You sound like a human. Perhaps I am learning from the best, Curie replied. In space, the battle was becoming desperate. The human fleet was giving everything they had, but the Devourer numbers were overwhelming. Ships on both sides were exploding, filling space with debris and bodies. Wing Leader Jamin led his fighter squadron through the chaos, hunting enemy bombers before they could reach the station. His neural link was overloading with information, targets appearing and disappearing faster than he could track. Fox Leader, "You've got 3 on your tail," his wingmate warned. "I see them," Jamin replied. He pulled his fighter into a maneuver that would have killed a normal pilot, the G-forces crushing his body even with the inertial dampeners. The pursuing Devourer fighters couldn't match his turn. They flew past and he destroyed 2 of them before they could react. But there were always more. Always more enemies. Always more danger. Dr. Nari worked in the medical bay of the Indomitable, treating wounded from both sides of the conflict. Human, Velthi, and Korthan, it didn't matter. Everyone who came through her doors got the same care. A young human pilot was brought in, badly burned from an escape pod explosion. Nari worked quickly, her hands steady despite the ship shaking from weapons impacts. "Am I going to make it, Doc?" the pilot asked weakly. "You're going to be fine," Nari assured him. "You're human. We're too stubborn to die." The pilot laughed, then winced in pain. "That's what they say." As Nari worked, she thought about the bioweapon that had started all of this. The disease that had forced humanity into isolation. The Devourers had created it to test other species, to see who was strong enough to survive. Well, humanity had survived. And now they were going to make the Devourers regret ever testing them. On the bridge of the Watchkeeper, Jiwan watched the tactical display with growing concern. They were losing. Slowly but surely, the Devourer fleet was pushing through their defenses. In another hour, maybe less, enemy ships would be in position to destroy the station. "Commander," Minho said quietly, "we need to consider the bioweapon option." Jiwan had been avoiding this decision. The weapon Dr. Nari had developed could disrupt the Devourer hive mind, potentially ending the battle instantly. But delivering it required getting a ship inside the enemy command vessel. It was a suicide mission. "Prepare the weapon," she said finally, "but I'm going to deliver it." "No," Minho said immediately. "You're the fleet commander. We need you here." "I'll take it." "Minho, that's not—" "It's the only way," he interrupted. "My ship is faster. I have a better chance of penetrating their defenses, and you know I'm right." Jiwan looked at her oldest friend, the man who had been beside her since they both volunteered for cryo-sleep 3 centuries ago. She wanted to argue, wanted to find another solution, but there wasn't time. "Damn you," she whispered. "I'll see you on the other side," Minho said with his quick smile. "Save me a beer." He left the bridge, heading for his fighter. Jiwan watched him go, knowing she would never see him again. Minho climbed into his fighter, feeling the familiar embrace of the neural link connecting to his mind. The bioweapon was loaded in his cargo bay, a small canister that contained the hope of ending this war. "All fighters, this is Minho," he transmitted. "I need an opening to the command ship. Give me everything you've got." "Copy that," Jamin replied. "Fox Squadron, form on me. We're clearing a path." The human fighters dove toward the Devourer command ship, drawing fire from dozens of enemy vessels. They flew with reckless courage, taking hits, losing ships, but creating the opening Minho needed. "Go now," Jamin shouted. "Path is clear." Minho's fighter shot forward, accelerating to maximum speed. Enemy fire filled the space around him. His shields took hit after hit, failing one by one. His left engine was destroyed. His weapons were offline, but he kept going. "This is for Earth," he transmitted to the fleet. "This is for the 300 years we lost. This is for everyone who'll never have to lose what we did." He crashed through the command ship's hangar bay shields, his damaged fighter skidding across. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Valaris Prime. The galaxy was different now. The scars of war were still visible, but something new was growing in their place. Something that had been missing for 300 years. Hope Admiral Jiwan stood on the observation deck of her new flagship, the Minho's Legacy. The ship was named for her fallen friend, a reminder of the price of peace. Through the window, she could see dozens of ships, human and alien vessels flying together in coordinated patrols. "Admiral, we're receiving transmission from Earth," a communication officer reported. "Admiral Taehyun wants to speak with you." Jiwan smiled. "Put him through." The holographic display activated, showing the old admiral standing in what looked like an open field. Behind him, Jiwan could see grass, trees, and a blue sky. Real sky, not the simulated environment of a station. Earth looks beautiful, she said. It is, Taehyun replied. The planet has been healing itself for 300 years. The air is clean. The oceans are full of life. It's ready to welcome humanity home. How many are awake now? Almost everyone. 2 billion people returned to consciousness over the past 3 months. We've reopened the colonies too. Mars, Luna, the asteroid settlements. Humanity is spreading out again, reclaiming what we left behind. Jiwon felt a warmth in her chest. After so long, after so much sacrifice, humanity was truly home. The council wants to make it official, she said. Next week there's a ceremony on Valaris Prime. They're formally inviting humanity to join as the 8th member species. About time, Taehyun said with a grin. We've been part of this galaxy longer than most of them. We just took a long nap. After the call ended, Jiwon walked through her ship. The crew was a mix of humans and other species now. Velthian officers worked alongside human engineers. Korthan soldiers trained with human marines. The barriers between species were falling. She found Hyejin in the diplomatic section reviewing reports. The young woman looked tired but happy. How are the embassy preparations going? Jiwon asked. Good, Hyejin replied. The council gave us a whole district on Valaris Prime for the human embassy. It's going to be huge. Space for diplomats, cultural centers, trade offices, everything we need. And you're going to run it? Apparently, Hyejin said with a shy smile. Ambassador Hyejin. It still sounds strange. You'll do great, Jiwon assured her. You've already proven yourself. The way you coordinated communications during the battle saved thousands of lives. Hyejin's smile faded a bit. We still lost so many. Minho and so many others. We did, Jiwon agreed. But their sacrifice meant something. Look around. Look at what we've built. Humans and aliens working together, protecting each other. That's what they died for. On Valaris Prime, the rebuilding was nearly complete. The damaged sections had been repaired. The civilian population had returned to their homes. But the station was different now. Everywhere you looked, you could see signs of humanity's presence. Human technology was being integrated into the station's systems. Human restaurants served food from Earth. Human artists displayed their work in the galleries. And in the central plaza, a new monument stood tall. The Memorial of Unity. It was a massive structure made of crystal and metal, listing the names of everyone who had died in the Battle of Valaris Prime. Human, Velthian, Korthan, Tharvan, all species together. At the top of the memorial, in letters visible from anywhere in the plaza, was a single word in every galactic language. Together. Ambassador Kiori stood before the memorial, reading the names. She had spent weeks helping to compile the list, making sure every fallen soldier was remembered. Her compound eyes focused on one name in particular, Captain Minho. A human woman approached and stood beside her. It was Dr. Nari, dressed in civilian clothes rather than her medical uniform. He was brave, Curie said softly. He was, Nari agreed. They all were. Human, Velthian, everyone who fought that day. I have been thinking, Curie said, about what humans said during the battle. About protecting those who cannot protect themselves. That is a powerful philosophy. It's who we are, Nari replied. We've always believed that strength means nothing if you don't use it to help others. 300 years ago, we isolated ourselves to protect the galaxy. Now we've returned to protect it again. The galaxy is better for your return, Curie said sincerely. We forgot what real courage looked like. You reminded us. Elsewhere on the station, Seojin was teaching a class of Velthian soldiers. They were learning human combat tactics, studying the techniques that had proven so effective against the Devourers. The key is coordination, he explained, demonstrating a flanking maneuver. Don't fight as individuals. Fight as a unit. Share information, cover each other's weaknesses, trust your squad. One of the Velthian soldiers raised a claw. But humans fought alone for 300 years. How did you learn to trust others? Seojin thought about the question. We trusted each other. When we went into cryosleep, we had to trust that the people who stayed awake would keep us safe. We had to trust that future humans would find a cure. We had to trust that when we woke up we wouldn't be alone. That trust kept us strong. The Velthian nodded slowly, understanding. Colonel Daehyun was in a different part of the station, meeting with council military leaders. They were planning the next phase of operations against the Devourers. The enemy had retreated after the battle, but they were still out there rebuilding their strength. We estimate they have at least 50 major hive clusters in dark space, a Corthan general explained. Each cluster can produce hundreds of ships. If we don't stop them now, they'll be back in a year, stronger than ever. Then we hunt them down, Daehyun said simply. We take the fight to their territory. We show them that this galaxy isn't prey anymore. A crusade? The general asked. A defense, Daehyun corrected. We're not seeking revenge. We're preventing future attacks. There's a difference. Lieutenant Yoonji was working on something different. She had been assigned to a joint research team studying Devourer technology. The goal was to understand the enemy better, to find more weaknesses they could exploit. Look at this, she said to her colleagues, pointing at a holographic display. The Devourers don't just consume resources. They adapt them. They take technology from species they defeat and integrate it into their own biology. So they get stronger with each victory, a Velthian scientist observed. Exactly, Yoonji confirmed. Which means we need to stop them before they defeat anyone else. Every loss makes them more dangerous, then we don't lose, said a human engineer. Simple as that. Wing leader Jamin was back in the cockpit leading patrols around the station. His squadron was different now. Half his pilots were humans, half were from other species. They all used neural link technology. All flew with the same precision and coordination. This is Fox leader to Fox squadron, he transmitted. Sensors are picking up debris from the battle drifting toward the station. We need to clear it before it becomes a hazard. Copy that, Fox leader, replied his new wingmate, a Velthian pilot. Moving to intercept. Jamin watched his squadron work together, human and alien pilots operating as one unit. This was what Minho had died for. This unity, this cooperation. Good flying, everyone, he said. Minho would be proud. The day of the ceremony arrived. The rebuilt council chambers were packed with representatives from every species. Humans stood alongside aliens, all dressed in formal attire, all waiting for the official announcement. Admiral Taehyun represented Earth. He stood tall despite his age, wearing the uniform of the Terran Defense Coalition. Beside him was Ambassador Hyejin, young and nervous but ready for her new role. The council leader, a wise Tharvan elder, floated to the center of the chamber. 300 years ago, the elder began, humanity disappeared from the galaxy. We thought they were gone forever. We forgot them. We turned them into myths and legends. But myths don't save planets. Legends don't fight battles. Humanity came back to us when we needed them most, and they reminded us what true courage means. The elder turned to Taehyun. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally invite humanity to join us as the 8th member species. Will you accept? Taehyun stepped forward. We accept. Not because we seek power or status, but because we believe in the Council's mission. We believe in protecting the innocent, in standing together against darkness and building a future where all species can thrive. Humanity is home. And we're never leaving again. The chamber erupted in applause. Representatives from all species stood, celebrating humanity's return. Later that evening, there was a celebration throughout Valaris Prime. Music played in the plazas. Food from a dozen worlds was shared freely. Humans and aliens danced together, laughed together, celebrated together. Jiwon stood on a balcony overlooking the main plaza, watching the festivities. She held a drink in her hand, something Minho would have liked. She raised the glass toward the stars. We made it, old friend, she whispered. Humanity is home. Beside her, Hyejin appeared. Come on, Admiral. You should be down there celebrating. I will, Jiwon said. I just needed a moment. Missing him? Always, Jiwon admitted. But he'd be angry if we spent tonight being sad. He'd want us to celebrate, to enjoy what we've built. Then let's go, Hyejin said, pulling her toward the stairs. Let's celebrate for him. They joined the party below, dancing with their crew, meeting aliens.